begin. So I'd like to call to order the August meeting of the Airport Commission, 6 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Motion to approve. For second? Second. Any discussion on the agenda? I would like to propose or not really propose, but no, I noted that the date that is listed in the adjournment section of the agenda for our next meeting is not correct. It says August 17th, which would have been a regularly scheduled meeting. So that is, I believe, September 20. Look it up. September 21st. Yes. So the next meeting would be September 21st. Hearing no further conversation, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? We have an agenda. Item 3 is public forum. See no one from the public here. I see no one on the screen, so we will close public forum. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the contents of the consent agenda? Oh,
I'll just add one thing, that there are no information or document on this particular consent agenda.
Okay.
So that we added the what is it called? The line item there, the agenda item number there, under the impression that we were going to be able to add it, or we did not.
got it. Yeah, it's not the note on the board docs was like adding one or something.
Which is changed now.
Okay.
It says it's not added, it was not part of this week.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, and I do have a few comments on it.
And I do as well, so we'll take that back. All right, do I hear a second? Second. All right, discussion, Aaron?
Yeah, just a few items under item 202, election chair. There's no motion second listed. I believe I made the motion on that.
You did. I think I made the same note. I think it was Ellen.
I believe that's correct. I'm sure that offhand.
Should have gone back and watched that. Watched the video.
Right, that was one item. On the second page, under 503, the voting on that is listed as 600. So just to have, obviously it's still 0, but the extra 0. And then on page 4, under 1103, I noticed that Helen's last name is listing. Otherwise, I had just no other comments.
So you did 2 of my 3, which is good. The third thing is, this is just, I just wanted it to be part of the minutes. I think it's good that we minute it going forward, that anytime our next meeting is not at the regularly scheduled time, we should minute why we have decided to change the meeting time, so that anyone going back says, why do they meet on August 3rd instead of the normal August 7th? So I was going to propose that we modify this, that we did this because we wanted to review grant and we had review grants, approved contracts, and also to accommodate staff vacation for August. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes? Well, actually, it's consent agenda, but within that, the minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Jeff. That carries. So we move on to
just quickly, Tim.
Yes, sir.
You could. I've just got on my computer. I was wondering if somebody could promote me on my second.
That was interesting.
Is that your computer?
It actually was me, and I taught it to throw its voice.
That was great. Your parent ventriloquism skills. Jeff, did you have something? All right, chance the computer. He's muted.
Thank you.
I know, Jeff. did you have something you wanted to bring up?
I was just asking to be promoted. I logged on my computer instead of my phone. I was just looking to get promoted. Am I doing something wrong, or do we have to be promoted each time we log in? We do. Okay, no problem.
But you are not promoted. Congratulations.
You can always use a good promotion.
No gold watch, sorry. Okay, so we're up to item 5, which are action items. The first one is item 5.01. These are going to be gobbledygook resolutions because there's actually 2 parts to each item here. So
I saw on, sorry,
Go ahead.
I thought I saw on an agenda at one point, the election of the vice chair.
yes, we have that in commissioner items.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, for some reason I thought that was further up. Apologies.
In July, normally it is because we do that to conduct the meeting.
Right, okay.
In this
Sorry
case, we
about
can, yeah, no worries. So this is gonna be long-winded, so please bear with me, but I'm willing to entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of an FAA grant for an environmental assessment, and then the associated approval to enter into a contract for that work. Do I hear a motion to that effect? So moved. Say it, y'all. I would say all that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, discussion. Nick, do you want to take that one?
I'll be brief, and then really this is Larry's project here. So as part of our master plan, one of the identified projects to analyze the environmental impacts of all of the other projects, essentially, or at least the eligible projects, was this environmental assessment. This is not a full environmental impact statement, which I'm sure many of us have heard of it before. This is an environmental assessment specifically for some obstruction removals around the vicinity of the airport required by FAA under 14 CFR Part 77. It has an extensive list associated with it. A lot of those types of EA assessments will be performed, such as each one of those identified in the memo. However, this really is pretty small in the scale of things when we're talking about essentially tree removal, which is really the primary obstructions out in the field. And outside of airport property as well.
There are different types of environmental review, and this is the only one that rises to the level of an environmental assessment. The other projects that were identified can be covered under what we call a category. So this is the only thing that goes to that level that the FAA would require.
Funding, this is a 90% grant. That's what we do not have yet, but this is what we're preparing for this every time this year. So 90% grant by the FAA. The 10% usually comes from a combination of small portions from the state of Vermont, potentially, because we already capped at a $500,000 limit. We do have a lot of grants this year and roll grants from last year, as well as passenger facility charge reimbursement.
Commissioners, any questions?
I had a question about because this is mostly tree removal. I didn't know if South Burlington has any regulations about removing trees. I know, for example, Newski we do, I know Burlington does, so I didn't know if South Burlington has that as well. It might be another layer of this. I didn't really see that included as far as
They would.
Okay.
This is the federal review.
Got it.
And
Okay.
we would have to secure any other local approvals.
Okay. So that'll be done through you all, not through this.
Correct.
Assessment.
And then, that brings up another point. This, of course, this is not to remove the trees because we still have to work with the homeowners, the property owners,
Right, okay.
associated with those areas. Got it. Which we have not taken.
There could be other environmental impacts too.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
So this is largely just a safety thing. If I were to draw a line above the airport and anything that went above the line has to somehow be mitigated.
Yeah, at the basic premise, it gets complicated, but yeah, absolutely, that's essentially what it is. In fact, Dave and Larry also are working on Richmond right now on a very similar situation where there are obstructions or potential obstructions within our approach paths. So that's exactly why those obstructions are needed to be moved back.
And what about the localizer wide sub area? Do we own that?
We don't own any of that. Those are all FAA owned.
No, I mean, it's a pretty large swath of land that goes out from runway 15 or localizer ILS towards Burlington, right?
Correct.
And so that land right there that it sits on, do we own?
We do not.
We do not. So every time we have to protect that equipment from environmental impact, we have to manage with whatever's the vehicle.
Yes, but we also have the easement on that property.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of those immediately adjacent areas, like the localizer area up there, and the light lining, for example, it's 1.5. We don't own the majority of that property, but we have easements for obstruction removal.
So you don't have to ask every time you have to get.
And that was.
That would be really onerous.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And, well, I don't know for sure, yeah, I'm out of the process of that years.
I've been multiple easement acquisition processes with regard to approaches, so. That would be identified here, if we did receive these.
But this is just the first round of getting a grant that helps to manage that.
And do we have a general idea of how many trees need to be removed?
We do. So we, during the master plan process, a very large document, but some of those sections in the master plan identified every single one of our services, every single one of our approaches. That was done in 2018, 2019 time period. Obviously, things change and grow. So we have a general idea of what those obstructions look like, especially in the immediate vicinity of the airport. This is going to help identify some of the EA impacts of those obstructions and beyond that as well.
Right. So within a wetland, there would be certain right rule we'd have to follow to take down trees as well. Something like that.
So there's going to be a follow-up and we'll have more information later on once the initial studies.
We can.
In terms of the extent of the.
Yeah, we can bring that as a future agenda item. I don't know, Larry's gonna know this offhand, but usually there's some requirements for public comment, public hearings and things like that. EIS being the very, very, very high intense public comment type of environmental situation. EA, I'm not sure if it requires a hearing, but I think it requires a public comment period. And we can bring the documents back to the commission as well.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving item 5.01, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 5.01 carries. Next up is item 5.02. I'd be willing to entertain a motion to recommend the Board of Finance City Council the approval of FAA grant for a new passenger boarding bridge, as well as the execution of contracts with Engelberth and Jacobs Engineering Group to carry out the work under that grant. We hear a motion to that effect. So moved. Second. Thank you. Discussion.
So moments ago, I just got an email from Senator Leahy's office that the FAA accepted this grant and that is now in the process of awarding this grant to us. While this is the replacement of Gate 12, recently we have changed that name and now it is Gate 9. I think we mentioned that in the past before. Makes our signage planning much easier to identify this particular gate. So this is a brand new jet bridge. This is not replacing a jet bridge, a brand new jet bridge at the end of the terminal integration project, the new building over here. That will be installed after we open. It's not going to be ready when we open this building, but after we open, and will accommodate the large aircraft that are off of the side of this building right now. Right now, we have Frontier, Sun Country, occasionally United, Delta, and just about every airline using that gate as a option for them. So this is the jet bridge and the associated work, because it's not simply just a jet bridge, but the associated work for that particular project. You can see the extent and the size of the project is of this magnitude. The majority of that cost is the jet bridge itself. Of course, there's quite a lot of work to construct the building up to it. I don't know. It's called
jet balloon is what number?
15.
This is, if you're looking at it, going right to the left.
No, so this is closest to the entrance to the airport, the land side entrance to the airport.
Delta side.
This is the closest side. So it'll be gate 15, which is JetBlue, gate 14, which is Delta Airlines, and then gate 9. Those aren't in order from a passenger. So when you're a passenger, you're actually walking in order of those gates. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to be.
So there's no 10 and 11?
There's no 11, there's no 10, and there's no existing 9 right now.
So as you come through the new area, it's your first one.
It is the top of the stairs of the new area.
Gotcha. And it's just gonna be the same the other one, it's gonna move, come back.
This is actually going to be one of our largest jet bridges that we have at the airport, so that we can accommodate the smallest aircraft, even some of the largest aircraft. Right, to get the ADA requirements of that ramp would be a very, very long length of the jet bridge. We're passing the board. Yes, that is work.
And that will have an impact on, as you mentioned, I believe, the operations or opening of the terminal integration project.
You got it. The terminal project will still open. It would be a ground boarding position only at that time. So this jet bridge is operational, but it will not impact it. And as far as funding goes, this is one of the 2 fiscal year 22 congressionally directed spending bills from Senator Leahy's office. So we would not have gotten this jet bridge without that funding opportunity, because the FAA originally essentially denied a jet bridge off the end of the terminal project because they didn't feel it was justified for our building. We didn't need another jet bridge essentially. With a congressionally directed spending, it removes the justification process of a new project. Of course, it still has to be eligible under federal rules, but removes justifying that project. So this is extremely skilled staff.
And the only option would be stairs.
We have stairs.
So that's what they're using right now.
Stairs to go down,
Right,
to go stairs to go
to go
down.
up, right. Okay. Good job. No one else do that.
This, Nick, what about the 15% contingency? Does the FAA cover that also, or?
They don't say they cover it right off the bat until we close the grant out. So if there's change orders, and then when Larry processes change orders, we'll get not only the contractor, our engineer, the airport and Larry's okay into the change order. And then the FAA always says this is approved contingent upon federal funding. So when we close the grant, when Marie closes the grant, then we apply for a grant amendment, which by law and by the AIP and the Airport Improvement Program handbook, we're allowed to go 15% above any grant is eligible, but not necessarily guaranteed.
So that's standard operating.
Yeah, and there are 2 grants we had go into that 15%. There's been a couple, but very few. So, but we are very careful.
In other words, Larry does a very, very good job.
Well, still,
We
yeah.
do the best we can. Some things are not control.
Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor of item 5.02, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Move on to item 5.3. And I would be willing to entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of an FAA grant for the residential sound installation program, as well as the execution of contracts with NENA Construction and Jones Paints Group to carry out work under the grant. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Any second?
So you have already seen 8 houses. We've gone through the grant, we've gone through the construction contracts of 8 houses, which are essentially happening right now. In fact, I just signed the contract with MENA, the same company that you're seeing right here, for those 8 houses. This is the next part of this project. So 8 houses were part of the pilot program. This is part of the next phase, which is an additional 7 houses of design and construction, plus an additional 54 houses of design, just design work for the next year's grant process, which is really important. Not only design, outreach, and the very unique circumstances of this particular noise project. The essence of this entire project is to reduce interior noise levels of eligible residential dwelling units that are within the 65 average noise contour levels. So between the 8 that you've already seen, the 7 here, the 54 that we're designing, these are the first houses that are going through the sound mitigation program. MENA was the lowest qualified bidder on both projects at this point. So they'll be working on a total of 15 houses over the next several months into next spring, most likely.
Depends on how long it takes to work. It's not that we're getting all these approvals. That's when we would start issuing up orders or actually doing. So, one of the important pieces of, I think we've had this conversation before, is our original estimate pre-COVID, really, or just about COVID, was around $50,000 per house. These bids came in over $100,000 per house, so twice the cost of performing the sound mitigation effort. The FAA is still very much committed. They're supporting us with additional grants to support this noise program. Vermont Gas Systems also is very committed to this project. I had a great conversation with them just this week, committing to the local match of this project. Sometimes not all of the local match, because there's very specific regulations that they have to follow, regulations that we have to follow. But supporting the local match or a portion of the local match with these very projects. You reduce interior noise levels, you're also reducing increasing your efficiency of your actual house. So there's a real benefit for their programs to coincide with this as well.
Nick, to that point, has Vermont Gas committed to a specific timeframe?
No. Yes.
For how long they will continue to support this through?
They have not, and I did receive Mayor Lott's email.
Right.
The MOU, I believe, has that timeframe. I believe. However, Vermont Gas Systems is beyond that timeframe, which or has committed well beyond that time.
Okay.
They haven't said exactly 1 year, and I don't think they will.
Right.
But they definitely are committed to this project. What's really important for VGS and for the airport is that these past, not this grant, but some of the past 8 house projects and some of our past grants over the last couple of years have been 100% funded. So there was no local share on those projects. So the 8 house program is 100% funded by the FAA. So there's no BGS share, although there's still benefits for BGS because we're still partnering with them to coordinate and work with the homeowners to still offer their efficiency programs within the state houses.
Okay, so the MOU with BGS is through 23.
I think so.
Okay.
And that was part of the conversation of either reevaluating, adjusting, or running a new MOU to a standard.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, one other question. This is for, so there's 8 houses that are already designed and under construction. This grant would be for the design and construction of 7 more, and design only of an additional 54. And the bid, yes, okay.
That way we have numbers to go for a grant. Okay, that way we're not, like we did with the pilot program, we have the money before, which.
And this rounds out everything in the 70 or above DNL.
No,
Not everything, but we're getting to that.
Okay.
Going off the time frame too, once we get those prices, next year's grant application will consist of the construction of these 54 houses plus the design of the next 50 houses.
Right. Do we know how many will be left in the 70 or above after these?
I could be corrected, but I believe there was in the neighborhood of 250, okay, in the 70.
Okay.
There was quite a number of them, but I would have to verify that, but it was in that I have to go back to it. So there's still a lot more houses in the 70. And I can get that number for you exactly. I spent a while back. I have that number on file. So.
Okay, thank you.
Is it normal for the FAA to give money to mitigate noise around an airport like this? I mean, this is a lot of money and it's very specifically targeted.
It is. So this is actually a really good question because this is not in competition with our construction or other projects that we have going on the airfield. This is what's called noise discretionary funding. So every year when the FAA gets appropriated, a portion of that appropriation has to go towards noise mitigation across the country. The FAA has assured us, not guaranteed, but assured us that they want to support the Burlington Airport's noise program at around a $5 million a year grant every single year for this noise mitigation project. Because the quantity of houses right now inside this 65 and greater DNL is over 2,600 dwelling units. So it's going to take some time, hence the $5 million annual contribution.
But do we get more? Do we get easier approval because of the F-35s? I mean, clearly we have noise levels that are not just normal commercial traffic.
Yeah.
And there's others of those around the country, but for a guard unit as small as ours to make as much noise as we make, right, is a different balance than somewhere that has an entire base associated that most of the people that are impacted by the noise live on the base. You know, so it's a funky kind of place that we're having to hold for mitigating that noise.
Yeah, it's very true. And right now, the only federal funding, including from the military, to mitigate noise is through the FAA at airports.
No, I figured. I just wondered if we get a more of a green light because I know that.
Not necessarily because it's the F-35, but because of the quantity and the size of the program itself, the quantity of houses and the size of the program itself, which of course is related to the so
that's
that
an indirect relationship.
it's an indirect relationship, and it contributes to the FAA's prioritization of Burlington rising to the top and receiving some additional funding on an annual basis, because compared to other airports in New England, in the East Coast, and around the country, we are very high on that list.
And we're going to get good data from this first round that tells us if we spend double what we expected, that it worked.
We have to show that, yeah, absolutely. So one of the requirements is to make sure that the interior noise levels are reduced to an average of 45 dNL or a 5 decibel reduction. So we have to show that to the FAA, especially as part of the initial pilot program houses. That's going to be very imperative to being successful every single year, showing the FAA, making sure.
So they actually go in the house and they test it. That's really cool.
Well, it's they do acoustical testing, which is like a white noise, and they test the difference of an exterior versus interior. Very cool. And that's what we did initially with these original houses, and that is what confirmed to the FAA that all houses 70 dNL to the 74 dNL are now eligible for noise mitigation without additional acoustical testing. There'll still be some testing after the projects are completed, but initially we no longer have to do acoustical testing.
And are you mostly testing at the same time every day? How do you get the consistent? Because obviously different things make different noise levels, and we know what makes the worst noise levels.
Yeah.
So are we looking for that? I mean, is that the one that we're really trying to mitigate?
Yeah, it's highly technical. I don't know the answer to that question, but there's very specific.
Because I'm sure that's what the people in the houses think, right?
Yeah.
that's what she complains.
Right. And it's not necessarily testing how loud, right, the machine is testing.
Yeah.
It's testing how much the wall or the window reduces that interior noise to get from their average contour level down to that 45 dNL interior. So it's more than just the noise that is being, output on a speaker. It's that reduction of what.
Right. But it stays there over time. They capture it over an amount of time.
It's a couple of day
testing. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, not necessarily at each house. I think they spent a week here testing that. I think there was 14 houses.
Yeah, WCX did a nice flip on it. They showed the speakers and all that.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
I mean, because it would be a tragic irony if the F-35s were gone for those 3 weeks.
Right. Well, we're not. So they're not testing aircraft noise. No. So they're
But it's testing.
They're making their own.
They're making their own noise with a speaker. And it's a white noise machine.
So how high does that go?
It's
the
right
same.
in the house.
Right, but I mean, is it the same as what the neighbors are impacted? I'm just thinking from a neighbor point of view, how is this gonna be explained to me so that I know that this is gonna make a change?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. It's
So they
sometimes it's hard to
noise
explain
at
that.
it, right?
They throw
Noise
noise
at
at it in a very regulated way, which very similar to our noise exposure map, which is a modeled computer map. We have to follow those specific procedures, which model an aircraft noise. That
At a certain level.
Correct, at a certain level. You're not going to hear 100 decibel sound coming from a speaker. That's not what they're going to hear. They're going to hear different models of noise to see what the reduction of their infrastructure is today.
Obviously, this has perfectly they just has.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, complicated, complex, and exciting too, because this has been years of work moving from acquisition to installation, and this is the first. These are the first 15 right there.
Thanks for that clarification. I had some similar questions on that, but yes.
I did on this item and on the next item, we also are working with a new Department of Defense, which is called the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, which is an alternative funding source for that local share. So I know Winooski has had conversations with that office in the past. We're continuing to work with them to make sure that that local share is always picked up. And that's a DOD.
Can you mention that name again?
OLDCC, which is the Office of Local Defense
Commissioners, any further discussion on 5.03? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 5.03 carries. Last up in this collection is item 5.04. And I'd be willing to entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of an FAA grant for updating the current noise exposure map, as well as the execution of contract with Jones Paynes Group to carry out the work under that grant. Bring your motion to that effect.
So moved. Second.
Nick?
So as we move into noise mitigation and the houses that we just spoke about, and I'm gonna explain it at a high level. As we move into those eligible houses, the very first documents that we need to produce is what's called a noise exposure map, which is exactly a map identifying the average noise levels over an entire year period of time and over a 24-hour average throughout that time frame. That noise map, of course, identifies certain contour levels on a map around the airport showing the 65 dB DNL, which is a day-night level average. There's penalties if there's noises outside of a certain hour or a 10 decibel penalty. That's what that DNL stands for. So that noise map identifies those noise contours: 65 DNL, 70 DNL, 75 DNL. Anything between the 65 and 75 DNL are eligible for certain noise mitigation efforts. The other document, the noise compatibility program, identifies what we would like to mitigate and how we would like to mitigate those properties. Acquisition, noise insulation. We have a program called purchase assurance and sales assistance. So there's different opportunities for a homeowner to work with these programs to mitigate noise at those particular properties. We just updated our noise exposure map in 2018, 2019. We received the acceptance of the FAA September 2019. And in conformance and in collaboration with the Air Force, which within their environmental impact statement of the F-35s, they identified now 1 year after full operation of all 18 F-35s, they would also renew their map. And we committed that we, with the help of the FAA, would also redo our map. 2 maps. One is DoD and Air Force regulated maps and actually uses a completely different noise modeling software program that the Air Force is currently, I believe, moving forward with their mapping procedures over the next couple of months, year time frame. Ours is an FAA required and required noise modeling system, different program, and different reasons for that different program. And that's what this particular grant is undergoing, is to update our 2019 map, which actually updates a existing condition and future forecast map, and will identify all aircraft at the airport, GA, commercial, and military aircraft, and use real radar data over that 1 year period of time, and also now use 1 year of full operation of the F-35s at this airport. So this is a very large update, and probably potentially could shift the noise exposure contour lines. It's going to take some time. I'm hoping by summer, if we can receive this grant sooner, hoping by summer of next year, late summer of next year, we can publish these maps. We'll have public meetings, public hearings, public comments on this map, and then we will submit to the FAA for their acceptance. Once it's accepted, then we can shift our noise compatibility program to do exactly what we're doing out in the field right now, which is sound insulation. So this is the start of an updated noise exposure map.
I'm sorry, who makes it? Who creates it?
So the map.
The 2 maps.
Well, the military creates their own map with their own consultants. And then we hire a Jones Paint Group with a sub-consultant called HMMH. They're one of the leading consultants in the country that actually help the FAA write some of the regulations and programs, or test some of the programs, I should say, for the noise map process. We've been using them for years, even before this 2019 map. And they're the ones that can be modeling the map and get published. You got everything.
Is there, and feel free to not answer this if you don't want to, is there a sense that the current maps are going to have much change?
Yeah, it's tough because without, one, I don't know, let me break it down into two parts. From a civilian standpoint, from the civil aircraft, GA, commercial, I don't think so. We've had some increase of operations and some changes in the type of aircraft, but not a significant change compared to the 2019 version. And from a military standpoint, from all of the information that we understand, it seems to conform to the EIS data or the EIS projected operation counts and projected operations itself of that aircraft. So I don't believe it will, but there's a possibility it could. I don't know exactly what the radar information looks like or the profiles of the actual aircraft and how the thrust profiles and sure that's things work. So there is, I would say, it is more unlikely that the map does not change to the extent of the changes, what's really tough.
Right, and I guess that's I'm thinking about that in the context of the next step with the noise compatibility and what that might do with the current list of properties that are being reviewed and analyzed and the ones that are in the queue. And in the future years, if some of those are now going to come out, if we're going to add more in, or how that's really going to break out, and kind of the prioritization of what homes are being evaluated. So obviously, nothing we can figure out right now without having maps. I'm just thinking more for longer term what that is looking like, and more from the context of is there an equity issue involved with if the 70 expands a little bit more, are we then going to just start looking at all of those homes that might be in South Burlington and not do some in Winooski, for example, or in Williston or another community? So
or vice versa.
Exactly, or vice versa. Right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it's really tough to say.
Right.
That's, I think, on a general concept, that's exactly why the FAA likes to work at the higher DNL and then calibers, because especially at the 65, as those contours shift back and forth typically we'll update this map every 5 years. As those contour lines shift back and forth, obviously we don't want to start on those outside edges and find out that they're not even in the 65.
Right.
So that can be tricky, and we're not even near that right now. Right. I don't foresee, although I don't know, but I don't foresee that line is going to change.
Thank you.
So I just want to build on that before I go to others. So in the event that there is sound remediation in progress, when the map shifts, are those houses eligible to continue?
Yeah, that if those houses were within a grant that we're working on right now, inclusive of the design, then that they do not shift for their existing eligibility.
Okay, so the grant includes specific residential addresses and not a generic within a certain DNL.
That's well, not necessarily. So no, right now the grant does not list.
Or does it? We have to look at the names and
So that's
So as long as it's in the design, or as long as it's included in a grant, for design or construction. If that DNL shifts and it's now no longer in that DNL that would be eligible, it still moves forward. The property still moves forward because it was already included.
That's correct. And the only caveat that I don't know the answer about, and we're years away from this, is that 65. I don't know if we're working on a grant when a house is in the 65 and then the map changes. I don't know what the answer would be to that particular situation.
And then to build on the other thing that Eric mentioned, the allocation of the properties across our surrounding communities. I don't know if you want to just briefly walk through how we went through that the first time so that everyone knows how that works and how that might unfold again the second time.
Right. Right, and bigger too, because it was an extensive process to go through an updated noise compatibility program. Our very old one had essentially acquisitions. That's why a lot of these houses were purchased over those decades. So that was an extensive process as a part of the noise compatibility program. And after we confirmed and received approval from the FAA on the programs within that NCP, then we moved to what was called an implementation plan, which is online at btbsound.com, which identifies the priority and the ratios of houses across the communities based on essentially the ratio of how many houses are in each community. With the understanding that the higher the DNL or the closer it is on those contour lines must be accomplished first. So as we continue to grow outwards and reach DNLs that hit Winooski and Williston, then the ratio will start going across those communities as well. Right now, it's the 70 DNLs is just shy of residential units in Winooski. So as we hit that closer DNL on the edges of the contour line in South Burlington, then we'll start ratioing them out across the communities as well and selecting new houses that way. So that in the purpose of that, and through many conversations, public meetings, and conversations with leadership from those various communities, the purpose of that, of course, is to equitably fund those communities through that $5 million cap that the FAA is giving us, making sure that those 50 houses a year are spread amongst everybody eligible. We do want to continue looking at some of the disparities of financial equitability and low income houses and things like that across those communities. Well, that's really difficult on the FAA side of things because they want to see higher DNL on those first. But something that we do want to continue to look at.
It would seem incredibly optimistic to think it was going to go down, given the growth of it. But the map would be shrinking, not.
Yeah. Well, and
Or stay the same, Pete. I can see it mostly staying the same, actually.
Yeah, I could too. And an example would be when we transitioned from the 2016 map to the 2019 map is the characteristics of the aircraft.
Right.
F-16s using afterburners, adding all the civilian aircraft, and then the forecast of the F-35s, which had a less than 5% use of afterburners. When the F-16 map was here, it was much wider and more circular around the airport versus the F-35, which elongated, but shrunk it on the sides of the airport as well. So that could be the examples of that contrasting areas.
So we're gonna have more traffic. I mean, that's why we're building more, jetways and everything else. So I think that it's not likely to. The other traffic that we want,
The shape may change for the total areas like the existing areas.
Right, that's correct. Now, the 2000, I'm trying to keep it less, because there's so many nuances to this program. When we produce the map, we're going to be producing and publishing two maps. Like I said, the existing condition map and the future forecast map. So in 2019, that's exactly what we did. Existing condition and 2023 future forecast, which was the F-30, the map that included the F-35s. So we'll do that again, and that future forecast will make sure that the future operations of the civilian side of the airport will be adjusted in that as well. Yeah.
And one of the other nuances seems to be that there are two maps that are being created. But I imagine that the National Guard map, what's the purpose of that? Is the final map a consolidation of the two, or are they just doing their own map for their own purposes?
The latter. So we talked a lot about the environmental assessment for the trees. One level above an EA is an environmental impact statement. As part of that environmental impact statement, they were required to produce their own maps.
Then they were required to do one a year after.
You got it, because of what was written in that EIS. These are DoD standards, so that map is now using a different modeling system, which is called Lux Maps. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. That map cannot be used for our purposes and for federal funding. And that's why we need to create a different map under the 14 CFR Part 150 process, conforming with the FAA's regulations and programs.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on 5.04? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 5.04 carries. Next up is item 6, construction update. Larry.
Okay, I'll be quick. I don't have much more than I had 2 weeks ago, with the exception to the action item we took last time and tonight. We will be applying for 2 more grants in the next month, one from the South Apron, which was part of the congressionally directed spending, similar to the Jet Bridge, Gate 12 Aspen Bridge, and we will be applying for from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the renovation of the North Concourse, and as a result of TSA moving to the tip. So those will be moving forward in the next month. They will be issued, however, as federal grants in the federal fiscal year 23, which is after October 1st. If you have any questions for me, for any of my.
I have a question on item number 9.
Okay.
In the red text at the end, it lists that you received bids for 9 homes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that?
Okay, which you're on the pilot program, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we applied for the grant for the pilot program, we applied for 10, okay?
Right.
However, and we did 10, one backed out, there was 9 left, okay? The cost came in 110,000 versus 50,000 that were in the grant. So we worked with the FAA to take advantage of that 15% that was asked about before, okay? And moving that 9th one into the grant you just reviewed, which will be approved and coming at the same time. So
is that's one of the next 8?
Correct.
This
was 7.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
A total
15. 15.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's accurate. It's just what we had to do to make sure we could make it.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
We're going to slap me. And that's all I have. Any questions? Any other questions?
I think we're good. Let's see, so now we're up to item 7, Marie, financial update.
So likewise, in the last 2 weeks, a few things. For the last report that we did 2 weeks ago, I presented for the May. We're being that we're just 2 weeks out, I just don't have a lot of information to compare to you. Also year end. So I'm always I'd like to report year end when things are a little bit more concrete because it's sort of like the final one. So usually for the year end stuff, I'll wait and just present that as part of the audit package. So that's sort of where we're at with that. But I did, because I had all of the numbers with the exception of PSCs, I had to just estimate for June. I didn't have the numbers yet, so still don't have them yet. But So what you see on the recovery metrics sheet is actually, is true for all the revenues except for the PFCB estimated for June. So it shows you where we ended up the year for those are definitive revenues, and they have done really well with the, by and large with the recovery. I think 2000, our fiscal year we just wrapped up, 2022 was turned out better than we had budgeted. And as far as passenger loads, that definitely had a positive impact on all of our revenues. And we also see car concession and CFC as being very strong. That's my report today. And
another question I had that I was kind of thinking about the last time that we met, which wasn't that long ago, was that having gone through the airport several times in the last month, it's very, very clear that we have companies here that are severely understaffed. From people loading bags to TSA to even outside, on the curb. Is our staffing where we want it to be at our budget, or are we having the same kind of crunch that everybody else is having? In other words, how does that impact our budget? We just can't hire enough people.
Well, I'll take a stab at it and jump in. I think from our operations folks, our administrative folks, our maintenance folks, we're actually fully staffed.
We're okay.
Except for maybe retirements that happened this week. Yes, on Monday. I think out on the curve, and Shelby can talk to this as well if you want. We've done so much outreach and so much. You want to talk about the curve and your ambassadors, because that's what you mentioned specifically.
I think where we're really struggling as the airport city of Burlington staff is our entry level positions, which are some of our customer service forward facing positions. We have 7 openings currently, so our schedules are running very tight.
And those are full-time or part-time?
There's 2 part-time, 5 full-time.
And those are mostly the ambassador positions.
Correct. Yeah. So those are special parking requests, keeping eyes on the curb for TSA regulations, the north exit security, and then just general passenger assistance.
Okay.
We're making some progress too. Shelby's done a great job recently hiring 3 people to join her team, which have just come in the past couple of weeks. Some 1-2 months, I think is the best. So she's making progress, but yeah, those entry level, extremely competitive positions of hourly salary with other outside entities.
Are those like minimum wage positions?
We actually just had a phenomenal increase for our staff. They were grade 8 with a union contract. They actually eliminated grade 6, 7, 8, realizing it was inequitable and just not a tangible way to operate. So they actually all moved in the same step. They were actually on their grade level and then received a 7.2% COLA as well. So we're starting to become a bit more competitive.
And I think $17. So we start at 19. So we're not, none of our positions here are lower than that.
Nice.
$18 to $19 now.
But still, even if we're out 7 ambassadors, that's a little drop in the bucket for your budget there. That shouldn't have a huge impact looking at the end of the year. And so none of these other people on the airport that employ people on the airport, I have friends that missed flights because they couldn't check in 2.5 hours early because there's only one person to do it. But that doesn't impact us other than how we look to the public, right?
That's correct.
It's not something we can really control.
No, it's not, but we can help, and we work with those partners to make sure that we help with their advertising. We're sharing social media campaigns or hosting job fairs right here in this room and up on the message.
But it's gotten funky, right? Because the airlines are not actually employing people. Like, we don't have JetBlue people on the ground anymore, right?
Correct. None of our airline carriers employ
their own ground handlers.
There's separate third-party companies which is not uncommon. There's a lot of airports, especially our size, that hire those third-party ground Right.
That's usually not all of them.
Sometimes it is,
Yeah.
JetBlue is the latest, they were the last ones to have JetBlue employed staff on the ground. And now it's, they have contracted it out to a third party company. They've done that across many of their airports.
Marie, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
First of all, thanks. I like this. Is this the first time, I apologize, I missed it, that you showed these recovery metrics in this way?
Yes, I have to thank Tim. He had the idea and he actually put together the charts and the spreadsheet. For us now, all I have to do is update it, but we presented it last month for the first time. But it's a nice way. I think it's a really good example to show what has happened historically, because it's so challenging with, we have some variabilities from month to month, depending on the time of the year with any of our revenues. Our car concession revenues are much higher in the summer. That's just their season, when we see certain months in the winter, parking garage being super high. So it removes that month to month variability that gives you a good point in time to really reflect how we're coming. So I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think I find it very helpful, especially now. Thanks, Tim. Are you available to do chart ticket revenue and sponsorship?
That's what I do for a living, Jeff.
I did just want to make sure I understood. So when you're saying at February in the metrics like parking at February 2020, what does that 6.67 million mean in terms of February 2020? Is that what we were projecting at that point?
That was 12 months. So these are, each number, like each data point is showing 12-month of revenues added. So that would have been from, we'll say from March of 2019 to February 2020. So that's kind of like, that's right before COVID.
Okay.
So we were having a normal, our normal business without any business interruptions or variations. So that's kind of the starting point. Our parking garage revenue, all of our revenues were doing exceptionally well. We were growing. And just for the benefit here, we saw a significant growth in enplanements in the year leading prior to COVID. So 2019, we hit a dramatic high. And then it was even more painful to have the reduction, I guess.
Okay. And so the current is the previous 12 months.
Correct.
Starting with leading up to June 22?
Yes, so that would be July through July 21 to June 22.
Got it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's how we're doing, that's how the recovery is compared to that initial
Okay.
block.
All right. And then you will, in subsequent packages, I think it'd be great to include this, not to overwhelm you, but this, and you'll still do this sort of, the different metrics that you typically share with us? P&L, the cash report?
Right, so I'll have all of the normal, the cash, all of the revenues, all of the expenses, you'll see all of that. And this will be every month we'll have this, so that starting column at February 2020 will stay the same, but we'll just go out on the current months and the chart will get more data.
Great, thank you.
My only question for you, Marie, is, if you think back to when the budget was for 23 was put together, and you look at, we've now got data through June. Some of it's still preliminary, but pretty much there. How are you feeling about the revenue projection in the FY23 budget?
Well, I think, again, I feel good about, I think we put in a reasonable number. We did not use 100, we didn't go gung-ho with on the car rental concessions, I went higher. With the CFCs went higher, because I know that we're going to be higher. But the parking, the landing, the PFCs, I still was using about 90%, just to give us some wiggle room. We really don't, there's things that are just out of our control, right? And I'd rather hope for at least that, and hope that we exceed that things can continue growing on the path that the line that they're doing. But I won't bet any money on it, right?
But you're cautiously optimistic.
I'm cautiously optimistic, and it's much higher for this year. You'll see that on the next financial report.
Any other questions?
Of course, another backstop, because we do need to remain cautiously optimistic, whether we're talking about COVID or some of the issues within the airline industry, like pilot shortages and things like that. We have a significant amount of CURSA and ARPA funding remaining still. And some of these numbers indicate that we are recovering our revenues, meaning our expenditures are covered, most of them. Whereas now we can push that aside just for a little while and make sure that we don't need those in the future, or at least in the near future, just in case for now. That's not always going to be the case. I think there's going to be a day that we come to you saying, we're going to spend a substantial amount of money on those CURSA and ARPA funds for X, Y, and Z project. One of the things that we are looking at, which it's not going to happen immediately, but there's a possibility of clawbacks happening in legislation, or there's some conversation happening at the national legislation of pulling some of those fundings back into the FAA's hands. Obviously, we don't need that, we don't want that, and there's substantial amount of work and capital projects and equipment that we could really use this funding for. But again, right now, this year, we have to be very cautiously optimistic. One day we'll be back though.
We'll be more than cautiously.
Either we're recovered and we're moving on, and we are looking for approvals for larger projects.
Any other questions for Frank? Thank you. We'll move on to item 8, which are commissioner items. So 8.01 is the vote on the airport commission vice chair. You may remember last month we tabled this because Jeff was not able to be present. Jeff is present. Jeff has expressed he is interested in continuing as vice chair, but I certainly will entertain motions for as such, or motions for anyone who is interested in serving as vice chair.
I make a motion to nominate Jeff vice chair.
I second.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the vice chair. All those in favor of Jeff Shulman as vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thanks. I didn't even get to use my campaign speech. Thank you all. And special thanks to Tim for his good leadership and not placing too much of a burden on the vice chair. So.
Delegation.
Now that you mentioned all right, so we'll move on to item 8.02, which is the finance update on the director of aviation search. So we had our first round of interviews yesterday. And we have 3 more dates set up over the next 2 weeks to wrap up first round interviews. The goal of that process is to identify between 3 and 5 candidates to move forward to a second round of interviews. So we are underway finally. They're a long start to get to that point, but wheels are in motion, and that's where we stand.
How many people are in that committee?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's roughly 7, 8.
Well, then city council people on that, or?
So here we go. I'll try to name that, but I'm obviously going to forget one man. Dave is on that committee. I am on the committee. We have Jordan Riddell, who's the chief of staff in the city of Burlington. We have Karen Paul, who's city councilor in South Burlington. We have Thomas Chittenden, who is the
Karen Paul's Burlington.
I'm sorry, yes, Karen Paul, Burlington City Council. We have Thomas Chittenden. Thank you for counting for me. We have Thomas Chittenden, who's the South Burlington City Councilor and also Chittenden County State Senator. We have Christine Lott, Mayor of Winooski. We have Matt Harding, who I don't know his exact title, but
Director, actually not director, he's the foreman of facilities maintenance.
okay, he's representing the union here at the airport.
Is that Sean or Ted?
Karen Murphy. Karen Murphy, sorry, HR, or she's the head of the HR department at City of Burlington. Karen's gonna be mad at me. Sorry, Karen. So a pretty good cross section of municipalities and roles that would interact with the director of communication.
But no airport people,
Well, Matt and Dave.
exactly, airport, but working, okay, so Dave working here, where is that?
He works here as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's at ops,
He's maintenance,
maybe,
representative of you.
oh, I see.
Any other questions on the search? And then any other commissioner items? I do have one small update hot off the press today that at the August 15th meeting of the Burlington City Council, they'll be voting on the 7th and final seat of this commission. So assuming that goes well, we will be fully up to speed for the first time in a long time at our September commission meeting.
Was that vote later because the time frame for the seat was different?
So I'm not exactly sure why this one is later than the rest. If it's with regard to the seat that was created as well as a charter change, Eric is already here as the result of that, right? So that seat technically became available immediately, although it seemed to take a while to get some traction immediately upon passage I should say on the governor's signature. But so I'm not exactly sure why this last process took a little bit longer than the others, but
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know it was related to the passing of Jeff Munger a little bit. And I don't think it was not advertised initially the same time.
there was some confusion with the posting.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that was the situation in my practice too, is that they said that it was posted, there was nothing on there, so you couldn't apply for it. And then suddenly I got an email saying, hey, they're doing this tonight at City Council, are you still interested? I said, well, wait a minute, there hasn't been any information, no one has contacted me, so. But obviously they're busy folks.
So that includes commissioners' items. Item 9 is director's report.
Not too much to add from the last couple of weeks. I listed out a couple that are kind of top of my mind right now. We've hired and are going through the contracting process for siting and designing our maintenance facility shop on the northwest side of the airport within our airfield fence. That's also associated with some landscaping projects that we're hoping to contribute to the community as well. Larry's reporter always does a really good job on the TIP project, but we're moving really fast right now. Looks fantastic every single week. I know we just talked about it, but every single week. We're also out to bid on the North Concourse renovations, which is a $2 million estimated $2 million project. Bids come back in just a couple of weeks for that particular project as well. And working with Skinny Pancake and Hudson News on reallocating some other space. So not too much different from what we talked about in the past. Hotel is still proceeding on the north side of our parking garage. They are essentially finished up on a few things. We have some things to clean up, and I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I'll be bringing a name change to the contract because they have a brand new partner with the group that's put together between DEW Corporation and this new company called Portland Industries. And then the last one is two staff accomplishments this week. One I mentioned last week, but we actually celebrated on Monday, which is a retirement of Greg Hill, which he's been here for 40 years. We had a great celebration. Hannah put together just about everything. With an ice cream truck and barbecue, and also as thanks for Greg, his family, which was there, and the entire airport team. And the other staff accomplishment in excitement, I accept an announcement actually, is Hannah. Hannah's not here today, but she is off on vacation for the next week because she's getting married on Saturday.
Yay.
Yeah, so super excited for her. That's all I have for you today.
Next up is item 10, follow-up items. So Hannah usually leads us, but I did.
Part of follow-up. I do have position to text me.
She just actually.
And I say, stop, go.
So, but back in the day, when I was vice chair, I used to run the follow-up items. So I'll dust it off for today. So 10:01 is the orientation conducted by airport staff and the public right to know. So are we still on track for presentation next month? And commissioners or staff, any other follow-up items that we need to keep in mind for September or beyond?
I think the only thing is just the update to the procedures and policies.
Yeah, good one.
That'll, I guess, get circulated to the commissioners. Anything else? Is it anything else?
Yes, so I'll just build on that. So Eric brought this up, I think, the last meeting. Yes, and so Eric was great. We took time to go through and make some adjustments. And I want to make sure that the newer commissioners get a little bit of time under their belts and then get your input as well. Traditionally, what we do is we would take this document and circulate it amongst the entire commission and give you an opportunity to weigh in with your thoughts on how the commission should work. You know, so simple questions like how does quorum work? What, you know, some of the things you were talking about, you know, earlier today. We want to get as many of those things into the document as possible so that we're all looking at this committee in the same way and doing this. Sort of. I don't know about SOP, that might be a little much, but yes, we want to make sure we all have the same expectations of how we're going to behave as a body. So in a couple of months, I'll be circulating that month, so I'll probably wait until our 7th commissioner is on board. We'll circulate that around. Again, we'll collect your input. Usually there's not a lot of confrontation as to what goes into this document. So usually I can just bring it forward and then we can just vote and move forward, and that becomes how we govern ourselves. So that's what we'll do. So yeah, I'm happy to put that on as a follow-up item, and I will make that.
I'm a little bit curious about, and I don't have any idea if that's something that ever reaches us here at the table, but I know that Butang is preparing a pretty gigantic, significant event on September 11th. And I know we're at the college, we're being involved, the flight's supposed to be involved, but I haven't heard like anything. Are we participating as an airport, or is it just kind of their deal?
I mean, it's their open house, of course, but we will be there. So we'll have a couple of our trucks. Dave is coordinating a couple of our trucks there. We'll have a tent and a table set up, and we'll be giving away some swag and even having a mini job fair.
Okay.
So that folks know that there's job opportunities at the airport as well. And that's essentially our partnership with them. We're also going to be helping advertising the program right here in the terminal, the open house right here in the terminal. That's about it.
And 2 years ago, we got squashed for our 100-year anniversary. Anything ever sort of come out that we are going to follow up with that?
Sure. So we did quite a bit with that. We do have new books. We have new history books, and we have.
Oh, we were going to do that. I'm sorry. I meant like more like an event, air show, kind of like waterfront. No.
Yeah, definitely not. Nothing that the airport would be sponsoring at the waterfront.
Which is always weird because you can't have any space at the waterfront.
Yeah.
You can only fly over it.
Although the last time is absolutely outstanding.
It was really well done. Yeah.
Super well done. Super expensive. We participated extensively. I had the privilege of briefing with the Thunderbirds just about every single day.
It was cool.
It was very cool. Very expensive. I know that the Scally family hosted and sponsored quite a bit of that, as well as our, what was it called? image. The Collins Foundation, with the old aircraft, the aircraft actually crashed.
I know, right after us. Okay, well, just looking at how we're like, where outreach for the airport falls in our bucket. So, I mean, do we have an outreach bucket? I didn't look on that on the budget. We do, right?
We have about $250,000 in marketing, mostly spent with our airline partners and things like that. So right now, I don't put too much towards any one entity. We help with advertising jobs. And you know, a lot of social media campaigns on who's partnering at the airport, what do people do at the airport, here in the terminal and outside. But now, right now, we're not sponsoring with the huge partnership though, operationally, on the event and making sure Dave and his team, of course, are aware. Dave's already informed them of a couple of things that he needs, and of course, we want to make sure that we're present too. There's going to be thousands of people.
Yeah, I know. It's a really big event. I think it's going to be great. Yeah. And it's the first time they're opening their doors, really.
And Robin, one of the things that came out of the 100 years is there's this excellent video that got put together, sort of talking the history of it. Do you guys have the link to that? Maybe you can share that with all the commissioners?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was tremendous. That was great.
Yeah, it was awesome to help put that together.
Okay, well, we can put that on the coffee shop too. I love that.
Nice. Now we're at 102.
I know. 100 something.
100 something plus.
Very good.
Sorry. Right, any other follow-up items? Hearing none, we move to item.
Tim, I'm sorry, just real quick.
Yes.
Next meeting, I have a meeting down on my calendar for August 17th. Is that a mistake?
Yes, so that has been corrected and is September 21st. This is essentially taking the place of the August 17th.
Okay. I don't know why. Do we typically cancel those on calendars, or I don't know why? Maybe it's my own calendar system, but maybe it's like once it goes on, it stays on. So the next one is September.
I don't have it on my calendar anymore.
Okay. So September 21. Okay, I have it down. That works. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the project. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Never is. All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.